Ray,
Hey, Tegan.
do you want to hear something weird about Soviet music lovers in the 1950s?
Is there anything normal about Soviet music lovers in the 1950s?
Not in this case. Specifically, it's about how they got super creative about bootlegging records.
Oh, please tell me all about this. I love this.
It's the Cold War, so really
All right.
can stand off between the Soviet Union and the West in general, but particularly the USA. And so basically, the Soviet government was super obsessed with controlling everything citizens would see, hear, think, particularly when it came to their consumption of Western culture.
Yep.
So movies and fashion, and especially music, were really under scrutiny. Now, as you would know, this is the time of rock and roll and jazz. They were seen as a really dangerous influence. And so this is how there ended up being the rise of something that is sometimes called bone music.
Bone music? Like skeletons?
Mm-hmm.
Aw, what?
Kind of a little bit. So, it was a time where, and it happened for sort of a little while after the 50s. So you've got Elvis and the Beatles and all these really iconic singers and bands at the time that were completely forbidden. And they were considered like low culture and you couldn't get it anywhere. But I mean, it's basic human nature, right? You tell people they can't have something and they'll find a way to have it. And that's what happened with this music in the Soviet Union. And I don't know who managed to do this or how, but they basically managed to bootleg these records out of discarded X-rays. Like
What?
medical X-rays.
Out of medical X-rays? That's incredible. Oh, these would have looked amazing.
They do. Like if you look up like bone music or
Googling
like
it now.
Soviet X-ray records, yeah, do it. It's amazing. So it'd be people's ribs or skulls. They were able to take these X-rays and cut it into the circles like you would, right?
Oh, there's skulls, there's hands, there's spines. This is incredible. Oh, there's X-rays with like where people have had like metal implants and stuff in there.
Yeah.
This is so metal, honestly. This is great.
Is quite literally in some cases so metal. So yeah, they would take these X-rays, cut them into the circles, and use a recording lathe to burn the grooves into them. And so then you got a record that you could play on a turntable, like it actually worked. But instead of black vinyl, it's someone's skull or someone's rib cage.
That's absolutely incredible. I love this ingenuity. This is great.
Yeah.
Oh, I want one. I bet you they're collector's items now.
They are. I have seen them on eBay before. I did buy one for a friend once, but it's one of those things where you're taking a bit of a gamble on whether it's actually legitimate or not, or one of the actual originals. Yeah, it's very, very cool. But yeah, people went to prison over doing this kind of thing. It was super forbidden. But it also wasn't just limited to X-rays. So people got really, really inventive with what they could press into records. So like a cake plinth, they did it with that. There's so many different things. I think like maybe road signs might have been used at some point. I need to double check on that one, but really, really, really cool. And it became super popular and in the public mind a little bit more about 10 years ago when there was this guy called Stephen Coates, who is a musician and a researcher, and he was in St. Petersburg and in a market and stumbled upon some of these X-ray records and was like, what is this? And deep dived into it, has written a couple of books about it since then. He had, I think it was a project called X-ray Audio, to just try and preserve like this piece of music history. It's just super cool.
Incredible. That's so cool. Even just like my mind is racing now with all of the different things that you could look at and go, could make a record out of that.
Right.
That's how people existed. Do you reckon we could make a record out of that? I reckon we could make a record out of that. Yeah, let's go make a record.
I reckon that would be such a cool thing for a band to do now as like a special edition.
Yes.
There's plenty of bands still doing vinyls. Like if you're like, we're doing like an X-ray audio, we're doing bone music. I think that'd be
if
amazing.
if Trent Reznor hasn't already done this for one of his projects, I would be absolutely shocked. This is such a Nine Inch Nails thing to do, or a Tool thing, or like, there's just some bands that it would really suit. People that sit in that more experimental place with their music, whose fans would also really genuinely appreciate something like that. Oh, I'm gonna go ask the guy in my local record shop if he knows about bone music and if he's got any bone music records. I just want to see one in real life now.
I kind of really love about this too is that apparently they didn't actually sound perfect, which makes sense when you think about it. It's been pressed onto an X-ray. And so things like the grooves that were etched in there, like they're rough, so the sound quality wouldn't have been great. Lots of background noise and crackles, and that apparently became kind of part of the culture, which I love. Like, it's all part of the charm, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and it just kind of takes you to that moment, to that place. I'm old enough to remember switching over from cassettes to CDs, and like even the noises of the cassette player, like when it gets to the end of the tape and the tape pops at the end, or when you've got your blank tape sitting ready, it's on record, it's on pause, you've got Triple J playing, all you've got to do is hit pause so that it can record your favorite songs, and you don't have to pay for CDs because you have no money. And like those sounds become synonymous with the songs that you listen to there, the little like muffled moments of where you've recorded it and it's not done it perfectly. Like they stay in my head. So I can imagine if this record was the only way that you'd ever heard this music, that those little, jumps and scratches and pops and all of those bits in the vinyl just become part of the song. I love this.
Part of the song, and also I think that what I think is really beautiful about it is that it's part of the song, but also part of the resistance. By listening to these forbidden songs and having those little imperfections and things, people were rebelling against the government and I guess this control that they had over their lives. So I know it's a small act of defiance, but I mean, some people went to jail over it, but art matters, and we know that, and that the fact that people would risk their lives or their freedom over that, I mean, it makes sense to me, but I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, and it's one of those things we can say it makes sense to us, but when put in that position, would we risk jail time to listen to certain music? And the motivations behind that is more than just, I want to hear the music. It is the resistance. That's what it's all about. It's about, saying, no, we live our lives and you don't get to control every aspect of it. That's just not how this is going to happen. We're not going to lay down and cop it.
Yeah, I can have this little victory.
And so births bone music. I love this so much.
I think it's really special to think about when we're in this age of, Spotify and YouTube, streaming services in general, where everything is the push of a button away. I think even thinking back to what you were saying, Ray, about that time where you would listen to the radio just to be able to record that song so you could listen to it whenever you wanted. Now you can Shazam something and be listening to it within seconds, right? But
oh my gosh,
in this time where that availability was just not only not so readily available because of the tech at the time, but it was a mandate from the government to not listen to it. Just the fact that they would risk it to hear a song is so cool and so different to the way that we live now, despite the fact it really wasn't that long ago. And I think that's just really interesting to think about.
It's deeply cool. Bit weird, deeply cool.
Yeah.